Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Eddie Liger Power Hour. Still coming at you from Minnesota. Got a good show planned today. We're going to be talking about the recent assassination in Ecuador. We'll talk a little bit about Palestine, a little bit about Vietnam, a little bit about Ukraine, hitting all sorts of places all over the world today. So this should be a short stream, planning to go about an hour, but that hour will be chock full of information and entertainment. So let's run it.
Realize that the problems of racial injustice and economic injustice cannot be solved without a radical redistribution of political and economic power.
Hello, everybody. How's it going? We got a little glitchy there, but looks like we're good now. My computer fan is going crazy. It's getting a little hot in here. Good thing this will be a short stream today. Not a super long one, but like I said, it's going to be chock full of information. We got plenty of good stuff to talk about today. For you, it's night in Germany. Interesting. Good to see everyone. What's up, Christopher Romero? Grapentine says so many badasses. I assume you're referring to the intro and all the awesome socialist leaders in that intro. I couldn't agree more. Especially that Eddie Liger guy. He seems really cool. But yeah, tell me if my audio or the video is bad in any way. Because again, I'm still in Minnesota right now, staying with a cousin while I do a training camp here. It's been a lot of fun. So. Yeah, it's really cool that that I'm able to stream here while I'm also training, so I can still be reaching the masses while I'm getting better at wrestling. And my cousin also has high-speed internet, so, maybe I should just come here and stream all the time because my internet is far less high-speed, but audio's all good? All right, thank you. Did you see the news? What news, comrade? What's up, Ware Pilgrim? How you doing? Shout out to our moderator, the people's moderator, Ware Pilgrim. France is going to bomb Niger. Oh my gosh. No. I'm learning this live on stream. You kidding me, dude? These people are scum. The French embassy got attacked in Niger as people were marching. Does anyone have a link for me? Because I can't find a link. I'm not saying it's not true, but I'd like to see a link to confirm or a source, Trying to find it right now. Niger coup gains support as French planned evacuation. Yeah, I don't see anything about the bombing yet. ECOWAS military on standby to intervene in Niger. I did see that, or Niger. I did indeed see that, but I will look for it now. Thanks, comrade. Appreciate that. I'll just get into the regular planned show, but obviously that is huge news if it is in fact true. So yeah, so we'll definitely cover that. if you can get me a source here. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure that my computer fan is keeping my computer from overheating and imploding. I'm planning on getting the next big Midwestern Marks investment is one of those laptop cooling pads that you can put your laptop on. It keeps it cool. So for the gaming streams, and if you don't know, we do gaming streams on the Midwestern Marks Twitch pretty regularly. I've had to stop those early sometimes because my computer starts to get about as hot as the devil's taint. So they did not bomb. They say they will. And send their planes twice. Well, they probably will. I believe France was heavily involved in the NATO bombing of Libya, weren't they? As well as just the NATO intervention in Libya overall. I'm pretty sure, and Libya may have been a French colony. I'm not 100% on that. My African knowledge isn't as good as, say, my Latin American knowledge, but let's see here. Yes, they were involved in Libya. France must recognize its role in Libya's plight, says the Atlantic Council, which is basically a mouthpiece of the military-industrial complex. So even they're saying, yo, France, you should probably apologize for destroying Libya's government and then leaving with no exit plan. So they have no central government. Now terrorists are fighting in the power vacuum that was left behind, and they're trading slaves openly. Chad with the Chad profile picture says, love the work y'all do. Thank you so much, Chad. Really appreciate your super chat. The super chats are necessary to the work that we do. So really appreciate you helping to finance our work, helping to finance our project, and we promise to keep it coming. Afternoon, you caught me in the middle of reading Das Kapital. That's awesome. I was reading the Grundrisse this morning. So we're reading similar stuff. What part are you at, Commie Attack? Das Kapital's my favorite. You reading volume 1 still? That's fantastic. Good luck. Long live Putin chants echo as protesters storm French embassy in Niger. Yep. The world is moving away from the U.S. and they're moving towards the multipolar order. They're moving towards Russia, China, Iran, Bolivia, Brazil, South Africa. I'm at volume 1 currently. I'm rereading the entire book. Smart. I had to reread it too. The second time was when I was like, it all makes sense now. I read Capital Volume 1, then read a bunch of smaller texts from Lenin, Mao, blah, blah, blah. Then read it again, and I was like, okay, this is actually the best book ever. The first time I got stuff from it. It was the first book of theory I ever read. So I'm waiting for France to turn communist in the future. Their people are certainly capable of rising up and overthrowing their government. They've definitely hit the streets a lot recently. But, so the first thing I had planned to talk about today was this viral TikTok. We hit gold again on TikTok, as that seems to be like my one skill in this world is to be able to blow up on TikTok consistently. So this got 500,000 views.
So apparently a lot of older
person who originally tweeted this, because their tweet only got 20,000 likes, and now my TikTok of their tweet got 70,000 likes. But I just thought this was really funny and worth playing on the stream for y'all.
So apparently a lot of older Americans, including some who may have fought in the Vietnam War, are moving to Vietnam to retire because they have cheaper health care and a better standard of living than the U.S. And this person says tried to destroy communism, then came back to enjoy communism. Freaking hilarious.
So that's it. A lot of American retired people are going to Vietnam to retire, which makes perfect sense. It's similar to the story I always tell about Carlos, where, anti-communists in Miami, his whole life had told him that communism is evil, socialism is evil, Cuba's evil, communism destroyed Cuba. But then when his mom got a health condition, all those anti-communist people were like, go to Cuba and get the operation for free and then come back. And He's like, wait, so communism's evil, but they'll give you free healthcare? They'll even give Americans free healthcare? You have all these retired people, you know, who may be people who fought in the Vietnam War, because they're about that age now, who are going to Vietnam to enjoy communism because they provide a better social safety net. And like, there are so many horror stories about Americans not being able to retire. Like, there is a movement of people who are retiring on cruise ships, because they can't afford a nursing home, they can't afford an old folks home. So they just go stay on these cruise ships where you just eat the buffet and whatever, because that is cheaper. It's cheaper than an old folks home. So, I mean, that shows how we don't take care of elderly people. And I mean, if you've ever known a working class person who gets older and comes down with dementia or Alzheimer's, you know how absurdly expensive memory care is, you know, and how the system just leaves these people hanging. These people who have worked their entire lives. This is something one of my grandparents is going through right now. So it seriously makes me emotional, for lack of a better word, angry. My grandpa's worked his entire life, busted his butt, was in the military when he was younger, worked on the railroad his whole life, worked as a dispatcher at one point, then worked at Hy-Vee, a grocery store, until he was like 70. And then he gets Alzheimer's, and within like a year or two, his savings will be dried up if he pays for his memory care, right? If he pays for the senior living facility. So the system just completely leaves these people hanging. Social Security is dried up, and it's not nearly enough to cover the cost of memory care. And this isn't a thing in the rest of the world. It's like, what are those people supposed to do? Right? You can't even give those people the dumbass pull yourself up by your bootstraps thing. Like, what are you supposed to do if you're 70 years old and you busted your butt your entire life, but then your body and brain start breaking down so that you can't work anymore? You'd think like those would be you'd think at least our society would take care of those people, the elderly people who have grinded their entire life and, you know, now can't work anymore. But nope. No, people can't afford memory care, and in fact, they're getting saddled with debt, or their families are getting saddled with debt because it's expensive to live in a nursing home. It's expensive to get health care for elderly people. As China has lowered their retirement age to like 55. It's different for women and for men, but it is very small. So China has one of the lowest retirement ages among major economies. Under a policy unchanged since the 1950s, it allows women to retire as early as age 50 and men at age 60. 50 and 60. But hold on. I know that your grandparents can't afford memory care and they're saddled with debt and they can't afford a nursing home, even though they've worked their entire lives, and that it might seem nice, you know, to go to China and be able to retire when you're 50 or 60 and not be saddled with that and enjoy your old age with family, right? But you got to keep in mind that socialism doesn't work, right? So we can't do it. We can't give elderly people in our society a better life. It doesn't work. Socialism doesn't work. Right. So I don't want to hear anybody saying, why can't we lower the retirement age like China did? Okay. China's socialist, so it doesn't work. Just try and keep that in mind. Oh, it's so stupid. It's so stupid. Every metric of a working economy, China is getting better. China is taking care of their people more and more. China is lowering the retirement age for their people, increasing wages, lowering working hours, decreasing poverty, increasing access to public transportation, moving towards an ecological civilization that isn't going to destroy the planet via climate change and ecological destruction. But here we are, in a situation where people will still say socialism doesn't work. We can't do any of these good things because it doesn't work. And by every one of those metrics that I mentioned for China, the U.S. is failing. Wages are stagnant. Rent is increasing out of control as landlord profits are increasing in direct proportion. But China has good economic planning, though their infrastructure is more effective. Yeah. Oh, okay. If nobody knew, I was being sarcastic there. Socialism does work. I was totally kidding when I said that China beats us in every major economic category that affects regular working people. And then I said, but socialism doesn't work. That was sarcasm. Like, socialism is obviously working. If we make the system sustainable, then the system will collapse. Yep. If we take care of the people, it'll implode. We'll be just like the Soviet Union. Man, these peach monsters are pretty good. I wish they had like chunks of peaches in them, though. Thatcherism, we must allow many to suffer so that some may orgy. That's trickle down for you. That's neoliberalism for you. The problem with neoliberalism is the workers eventually get sick of you taking all their money. I'm surprised people still think socialism will always fail. Yeah, I don't know how many people think that anymore. It's definitely still a thing. It's definitely, people still repeat these talking points like it's literally been programmed into their brain by McCarthyism and the Western dominated media outlets and education system. Corporate dominated, not just Western dominated, but yeah, but we're deconstructing that. We're re-articulating people's consciousness. Every time we educate people, every time we do a stream like this, every time you talk to your coworkers or your friends, or put out a piece of socialist propaganda or do some organizing, like, we're moving in the right direction. There's a reason that among the younger generations, socialism is more popular than capitalism. People have a more favorable view of socialism than capitalism. Younger people haven't been as heavily indoctrinated with Red Scare and McCarthyite propaganda, and that's hopefully going to continue. Hopefully then they teach their kids the same thing. We'll have a revolution sooner rather than later, hopefully. So, all right, let's go to some Ukraine news. I was surprised to see on CNN today, they were actually admitting finally that the Ukrainian counteroffensive had failed, or has failed. They were
long before Russian forces invaded. It was understood they
beating around the bush, or even trying to make it like the Ukrainian counteroffensive was a success. Maybe it just hit a few bumps in the road, but overall it was a success. When Ukraine suffered massive losses in terms of units, in terms of equipment, in terms of everything that matters on the battlefield. And once again, I'm not a military analyst. I'm not Scott Ritter out here. I'm more geopolitical and economic analyst. But, even I can see that the counteroffensive had failed when you see that Ukraine had failed to break through Russia's lines or defenses at any point. And if they did, they were, pretty much immediately pushed back. And you have all these videos on Twitter and elsewhere of, giant piles of Leopard tanks that had been destroyed, burning. And it's a really telling visual. That's all the U.S.'s tax dollars, all the U.S.'s support that's gone into these and NATO, Germany and the EU countries as well, and Australia. That's all our money, all these weapons that we've sent to Ukraine, just sitting in a heap, destroyed, as the counteroffensive fails. So we'll watch a little bit of the CNN piece. Obviously, CNN loves to bring on former generals. And I had a college professor, a Marxist professor, who told us early on in my political studies to always be wary if you see generals on the news, right? If you see these Pentagon officials on the news, because you see lieutenant or general next to their name and you assume that they're an expert, but obviously they're extremely biased. Obviously they're generally just a mouthpiece for the U.S. State Department. And, they never bring on professors, they never bring on scholars, they never bring on academics to provide any pushback. They just have a military general or a military lieutenant come on and tell you what the Pentagon wants you to hear. Oops, not that. Oh, it's already at 1.25. Perfect. All right. I will answer super chats after this segment. So thank you so much to anyone who sent super chats already.
long before Russian forces invaded. It was understood they outnumbered and outgunned Ukrainian forces. So when Ukrainian troops managed to roll back a good deal of that invasion force, hopes were initially high, they could quickly finish the job. It's not worked out that way. And now, new reporting tonight that there's growing concern among Western allies about Ukraine's counteroffensive and its fate. In a moment, we'll talk to a retired three-star general for his take. But first, the exclusive reporting from CNN Jim Sciutto, who joins us now. So what are you hearing from your sources about what they believe Ukraine's prospects are right now?
A markedly negative turn. Anderson, and these are sources I've been speaking to since the start of the counteroffensive, but even going back to the start of the war. And expectations of this counteroffensive were quite high, going back just a few weeks ago. But in recent weeks, as Ukrainian forces have encountered really intense Russian defenses.
Expectations were quite high for you, for NATO, for America, for the Zelensky regime. Everyone I listened to, every military analyst I listened to predicted that this was going to happen, right? They said there are going to be Russian casualties, obviously. Ukraine's going to hit back hard against Russia, but ultimately they don't have the firepower. They don't have the troops to do this. You know, it's a losing battle. And really what they think is that the U.S. and the Pentagon were trying to use Ukraine as a proxy, like they have been this entire conflict, to weaken Russia as much as possible, to do as much damage as Russia as possible before Ukraine inevitably loses. But it basically just ended up being an entire disaster, a total disaster, to the point where even the corporate media outlets like CNN, who have been saying, you rah-rah Ukraine, and telling the American people that Ukraine is winning since the beginning of this war, so that the American people will keep cheering on the death of Ukrainians as they're being used as a NATO proxy. Even they have to admit that the counteroffensive was largely a major failure.
In the east and the south, three lines of defensive lines, defensive belts as they're known, with trenches, as you're seeing there. Tens of thousands of lines. Ukrainian forces have not proven able to break through those lines. They've encountered staggering, as I'm told, both in terms of killed in action and wounded in action. And Ukrainian commanders, in response to that, understandably, have pulled back some of those units to save some of those casualties. And while even a few weeks ago, the hope was that over time they'd be able to break through, more recently, the assessments both on this side of the Atlantic, but also in Europe, have been that they don't quite see the opportunity. So that hope has faded. Not entirely faded, but it has certainly become a much less hopeful outlook for their prospects for success in gaining back significant territory.
This also takes into account, I mean, there were a large number of Ukrainian...
Was that guy wearing moon shoes? I'm pretty sure. Is that what the U.S. has been sending Ukraine in terms of weapons? Like, here, take these moon shoes from the dollar store. You'll be able to jump over the Russians.
Forces trained for a length of time by U.S. forces in sort of combined weapons tactics, and that still has not been able to deal with the trench system, the mining, the defensive system that Russia had time to set up.
No, and what I'm hearing is that the expectations may simply have been too high. When you look at the training for some of these newly supplied Western weapons, for instance, German Leopard tanks, you're seeing maybe 8 weeks of training. That is not a lot of time.
Expectations have been too high, huh? Yeah, guys, it's almost like the media and the military generals that they provide a platform to have been lying to us. It's almost like you guys have been lying to the American people when you say that Ukraine has a chance to win, so that you can keep pushing more Ukrainian people to the slaughter. And you can use them as a proxy to try and weaken Russia as much as possible. Maybe expectations wouldn't have been so high if the U.S. wasn't so focused on winning the information war, controlling the information war, and brainwashing people into thinking that Ukraine has been winning this conflict since day one. Right? I mean, like, people like Anderson Cooper ultimately have blood on their hands. Because as they're cheering, you rah-rah Ukraine, I'm the most pro-Ukrainian out here. They're cheering on the deaths of more and more Ukrainians, and they're lying to the American people and tricking these naive MSNBC or CNN watchers into thinking that it's possible to win. Also, now a majority of Americans are seeing through this. Now, a recent poll said a majority of Americans want to get out of Ukraine completely, stop sending them weapons. But a third of Americans said they want to send the U.S. military to Ukraine. They want to invade. I told that to my cousin the other day. He's like, who are these people? I'm like, dude, I don't know. Maybe it's just made up. Play a little bit more on this.
And the thinking is, from speaking to military officials, also diplomats, is that the idea of turning Ukrainian armed forces into a capable, credible, mechanized fighting unit in that short length of time may have been a bridge too far. That even with advanced weapons and training from the...
It always has been. It's never made sense. It's never made sense that, Ukraine would be able to just defeat Russia in a, head-to-head conflict, or in a prolonged, protracted conflict like what Russia is waging against them. It's never made sense. Doesn't mean anything, or doesn't mean everything, but look at the size of the two countries. You could fit like at least 5 or 6 Ukraines inside of Russia. Russia is a superpower. The U.S. does have advanced weapons, like they said, and they did train up a bunch of Ukrainian troops, but they're used to fighting wars in Afghanistan. They're used to fighting wars in Iraq. They're used to fighting Libya. Much smaller countries and much less developed countries. They're not used to waging a conflict or a proxy conflict against a global superpower like Russia is. And especially in the era where the U.S. has been financializing, a lot of our manufacturing base has been outsourced, as the manufacturing and industrial bases of countries like Russia and China have been increasing greatly due to nationalization of certain industries and central economic planning. Economic planning, which apparently never works as well as the free market. But we're seeing that it does work better than the free market in a lot of cases. So it's always been a ridiculous thing to say that Ukraine is going to win this conflict, right? Folks like Scott Ritter, real military analysts who are actually looking at what's going on and trying to give you a sober analysis of it, have been saying this from the beginning. It's going to be a protracted conflict. A lot of people are going to die, on both sides. A lot of Russians will die too, but eventually Ukraine is going to lose. And after they do lose, much of NATO and much of Ukraine will be demilitarized. A lot of their military equipment will be destroyed, or their capacity to create this equipment will be destroyed. And that's what I said in the debate with Vush. And Vush laughed like it was the dumbest thing he's ever heard. Oh, ha, ha, ha. You think Russia can beat NATO? No, NATO's all powerful. You think Russia's actually demilitarizing them? No. Yes. And now everybody can see it. And everybody can see how much of a liar people like Vush are. All right, one more segment.
Best in the business, right? That the time frame was short, and that even for the best U.S. combat brigades, months, years of training, still difficult weeks of training, it just may have been too high a hope.
You also mentioned in your reporting that the Western officials fear this slow counteroffensive could cause a gap amongst Ukrainian officials. What's the concern?
Well, you're already hearing it, right? I was in Aspen for the Security Forum just a couple of weeks ago. The Ukrainian president spoke there, and he said, listen, we'd like to have proceeded more quickly, but we didn't get the weapons and the training soon enough, pointing some fire, as it were, at the West for not moving quickly enough to support this counteroffensive.
Oh my gosh, can Zelensky shut the hell up for once? For once in his life. You guys didn't give us enough weapons. We would have won if you would have gave us more weapons. Dude, we gave you $45 billion in weapons. And you allowed yourself to be a dog, a puppet of the U.S., to the detriment of your own country, to the detriment of your own people who are now being used by the U.S. like pawns. And all you can do is demand that they send you more weapons. And that, he's desperate too. Zelensky's desperate to get NATO involved in this conflict, to get the Western powers directly involved in this and directly helping them fight Russia, which of course would mean World War III, because that would pull all of the NATO countries in, and Russia is a nuclear power, a world superpower. But Zelensky realizes the U.S. doesn't actually care about him. The U.S. just sees him as a dog, as a puppet, as a proxy, which they can use to weaken Russia. And when the U.S. is done with Zelensky, they'll let him go. They don't care if the Russians get to him or what happens to him. As soon as he's served his purpose, as soon as he's not useful to the neocons and neoliberals in the U.S. State Department and U.S. government anymore, they'll let him go. So Zelensky is almost like a cornered animal, like a cornered rat. And all he can do is ask for more weapons, blame the West, and ask for direct Western military intervention, which nobody in the world should want. And So not only has the Ukrainian counteroffensive failed to the point where CNN has been forced to admit it, but now CNN is being forced to admit that Russia is advancing. Um, Apparently, the Ukrainian city of Kupiansk was evacuated as Russia was shelling Ukrainian military positions. And now Russia has taken this area and they're starting to advance. So the Ukrainian counteroffensive has failed. And now a Russian counteroffensive, I guess, is starting to push the Ukrainians back. So even CNN is having a hard time convincing people that Ukraine is winning. Right? It's hard for them to fabricate some narrative to say that Ukraine's going to win. We just got to send them a few more weapons, right? People aren't buying it anymore. And the situation on the ground is so grim for Ukraine that even CNN has to admit it, even these corporate propagandists. So the war was hopefully coming to an end soon. I saw someone saying that this should mean a peace agreement is coming soon. I sure hope so. I imagine, I don't know what's going to happen. I've been predicting that the war will keep going until Russia's basically forced to topple Zelensky, until they're forced to do some kind of regime change. But I don't know. Hopefully not. Hopefully they'll just say, all right, Zelensky, you can stay in power. But obviously the Donbass and Crimea now belong to Russia. And we're signing a peace agreement. The fighting is over and Ukraine has to demilitarize and denazify. Hopefully that sort of a peace agreement is signed. Or, I don't really care if Zelensky is ultimately deposed from power or not. But that's been a big debate question. Like, what will ultimately happen to Zelensky once the West is done with him and once the conflict comes to an end? But we're slowly approaching that time when the conflict comes to an end and the destruction can finally stop. The NATO-caused destruction. All right, super chats. Cade Grenade, whoa, $15 plus Cade Grenade's a member. Thank you so much, Cade. Appreciate you. Shout out to the People's FedEx worker. I just want to show support. The educational stimulation the Institute offers dampens the labor alienation that FedEx puts me through every day. Man, that's awesome to hear, Cade. Thank you so much for saying that. Thank you so much for putting a little bit of the money that you get working your butt off for FedEx towards the Institute and towards what we do. We'll continue to provide that educational stimulation, of course, and it would be impossible without people like you funding our project. So we really appreciate you, and I'm glad that we could brighten your day a little bit while you're getting exploited and alienated by FedEx. And we hope and long and cheer for the day when FedEx is unionized and when the FedEx workers can do something similar to what the UPS workers recently did. Demand higher wages, better benefits, better conditions overall, more air conditioning in your vehicle, stuff like that. So thank you so much, Cade. Appreciate you. Duck Hash Browns. Whoa, $20 super chats. We got a $15 and a $20 super chat. Raking it in today, I suppose. Thank you so much, Duck Hash Browns. Retweet everything that I said to Cade Grenade about the super chats being essential for what we do here at the Institute. What Cade said. Oh, you retweeted what Cade said too. All right, I'm glad I can brighten people's day while they're being alienated at work. I've said a million times that that's my favorite thing to hear, that people are at work listening to Midwestern Marx, that the working class is getting theoretically educated while they're also being exploited. That's what we need to do. One of my best buddies brings a copy of the Communist Manifesto in his lunchbox to work every day. It's pretty based. I don't know how I would make sense of my material conditions without this lens to view it through. And that's all thanks to the Midwestern Marx Institute. Man, thank you. Yeah, Marxism is super enlightening. Seeing the world that way is super enlightening. Seeing capitalism for what it is. And then being able to situate yourself within capitalism, to understand your place in the system based on your relation to the means of production. It's really valuable. It helps see through things, and it helps give hope, too, that a better system is possible. It gives you an idea of how to organize against the ruling class, what needs to be done, which, of course, is class struggle. So, yeah, thanks a ton, Duck Hash Brown. Thanks a ton, Cade Grenade. our working class viewers, our working class YouTube members, financing Midwestern Marx Institute. And like I said on the last show, we don't have big donors. We don't have the Ferris brothers, the Wilkes brothers, the Koch brothers, and all these people who dump money into the Daily Wire, PragerU, all these garbage reactionary media outlets. All of our funding comes from you, and all of our theoretical education, all of our content is aimed at you, at fighting for your interests, at bettering your conditions, at overthrowing the capitalist system that exploits you. So thanks, guys. But Eddie, Ukraine has the fighting spirit. I didn't think about that. You know, one time, and thank you so much for the super chat, Cordy. One time, someone I know went to Israel to visit. A couple of evangelical Christians went to Israel because they believe that's where Jesus was born and that's where the rapture will happen and all this weird stuff. And the Zionists there told them that they were fighting the Palestinians or fighting the Arabs in the 70s. And it looked like they were going to lose. They were outgunned, outmanned. But God came down from heaven with a sword, and he killed all the Palestinians for them and helped Israel win the battle. And that was a sign that God was on Israel's side. They literally told that to these people I know who went to Israel. So maybe that's what's going to happen in Ukraine. Maybe God's going to come down with a sword and smite Putin. Who knows? But we'll see. Maybe by God, the Israeli Zionists meant the $3 billion a year, $3.8 billion a year they get from the U.S. to buy weapons, when the Palestinian people have fireworks and other makeshift guns to defend themselves. But thank you so much, Cordy. Appreciate you. That Canada dollar. Putin. Make friends with coworkers and make plans to meet outside work. Great way to organize. Great way to build connections with your coworkers. Just join. What's the consensus on Ecuador? CIA hit? I doubt it, because it was a neoliberal candidate. It was a right-wing candidate who was, threatening to become more popular than Guillermo Lasso. So the family of the guy who was assassinated has so far blamed Guillermo Lasso, the existing neoliberal US-backed president of Ecuador, for not providing enough protection. They didn't accuse him directly of doing the hit himself, but they did make it sound like that. They did place the blame on him for this happening. So that would be like, Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis. If Trump was still the incumbent, if Trump was still the president of the country, and DeSantis was running in the Republican primary to try and replace him, and DeSantis got assassinated. And then people in his campaign blamed Trump. It would be like that. It was a right-wing guy challenging another right-wing guy. And you also have the Socialist Party running in this election. So obviously we're rooting for them. But it just doesn't seem like something that would be in the CIA's interest to do. It seems like something that would be in Guillermo Lasso's interest to do, or even in the interest of the Ecuadorian socialists in a way. So we don't know what happened yet, but as Ill State Fishing says, my money is on Lasso making the hit. That's what I lean towards too, but it's definitely not something we know. We got to wait till more information comes out. There are these idiotic, for lack of a better word. I mean, I don't need a better word. That is the word for these grifters, American political grifters on Twitter, saying that he was killed by the woke left. They're like, this is what wokeism is. What are you talking about? We don't know who killed the guy, right? And the socialists, the left in Ecuador, isn't that woke, right? They're more so arguing for bettering their economic conditions. They're not as into left-wing social views, and Western neoliberal or Western liberal social values. So what are you talking about? Why do you have to blame everything that happens in the world on wokeism, or on woke people? It's so ridiculous. I'll actually, to show you guys what I mean, here's my TikTok covering the event, which I made last night when I was very tired.
Leading right-wing presidential candidate Fernando Villavicencio has just been assassinated in Ecuador. He was shot 3 times after a campaign event in Quito. Members of his campaign have blamed the existing right-wing president Guillermo Lasso for not providing enough protection, and American political grifters have taken to the internet to blame the socialist left, or in this case, woke people. Although, of course, we don't know who committed the assassination yet, so these people are likely just looking for clout. They're trying to throw red meat to their right-wing base by blaming socialists and woke people. But this is misinformation, of course. We'll continue to follow this story as it develops. But just my immediate perspective, Ecuador has seen a lot of political unrest after years and years of neoliberalism. So hopefully this next political cycle results in more economic and political stability in the country.
Right. So under Lenin Moreno and under Guillermo Lasso, the country has moved towards neoliberalism, which of course makes the working people's conditions worse, which of course leads to political unrest. And this is just another example of the political unrest. But, we don't know who did it yet. So for these right-wing grifters to be on Twitter blaming woke people or blaming the socialists, like, would you just shut up? Would you get an ounce of integrity, please? You're pretending to be a journalist. You're pretending to be a political analyst. And you're out here just making stuff up, just pulling stuff out of your butt. The president in Ecuador gets assassinated, a country that these people know nothing about, for sure. I'm not even going to say they probably don't know anything about it, because I know they don't. And then they're just going to make up, this was the wokes. The wokes did this. Like, oh, what the hell are you talking about? You guys are such grifters, but I can only learn geopolitics when Eddie is shirtless, so this is good. All right, fair enough. Just kidding. I should do a stream like shirtless, like doing curls sometime. That'd be funny. Plus, they're blaming Correa too, who's been in exile. Right? It makes no sense, dude. It makes no sense. Like, how would it be Rafael Correa, who was the socialist candidate? I believe he was in power before Lenin Moreno, and was sort of ousted amid a bunch of CIA and U.S. involvement, of course. But I'm not positive. Need to look more into it. But this is very interesting, very big news. It's going to be interesting to follow the rest of this election and how it plays out now that one of the leading candidates has literally been assassinated. But also, interestingly enough, and I know I said I don't believe that it was the CIA who pulled this off, but our friend Camila, who was just on the show the other day, said Ecuador's U.S.-backed president brought in the FBI and U.S. intelligence to the country a week ahead of the presidential elections, in which the left-wing opposition is leading by a wide margin in the polls. So the incumbent president, Guillermo Lasso, who the right-wing candidate who was just assassinated, whose campaign is blaming him for the assassination, or for at least not providing enough protection, he's now bringing in the FBI and other U.S. intelligence agents in the lead up to the election as the left-leaning candidate is winning. So very sketchy stuff. We know that the CIA and the U.S. and the FBI would never meddle in another country's elections because we support freedom and democracy. But still, this is pretty sketchy. You got to wonder what he's bringing in all these intelligence operatives to do. Is there going to be some kind of election rigging thing like what happened in Nigeria in their last elections? Is he planning to use them violently for some kind of assassination attempt? Were they involved in the assassination of the Villavicencio, the second place right-wing candidate? I don't know. We don't know. Hopefully more information comes out about this soon, but it is going to be really, really interesting to follow the election in Ecuador in the coming days. And this just throws a wrench into everything, right? Kind of a crazy event. And I'm limited in what I have to say about it so far because we don't know, there's no real information coming out about this, there is real information, but there's no concrete evidence so far of who might have committed this assassination, as far as I know. I saw Chaya up there said some gang took credit for it. Could be. I don't know. If anyone has a source on that, I'd be happy to look at it. But as far as I know, we're not sure yet. Did they assassinate the wrong person on accident? Could be. They forgot to assassinate the socialist. That's why I don't think the CIA is behind it. Like, if they were behind it, I feel like they would assassinate the left-leaning candidate. But... Sup, Eddie? How can I get my friend's feedback to you? Added you on Discord. Just send it to me. I'll check it out. Thank you so much, Sebastian, for the super chat. Sebastian's awesome. Always sending great videos to react to in our Discord. Oh, yeah. And you showed your friend the Xinjiang video yesterday, right? Oh, yeah. I'm very interested to see what they have to say. Thank you so much. I will check that out on Discord. I'll add you back when I'm done. I'm not going to do it right now, but I will, in fact, indeed add you back because I'm interested to hear what they had to say. See you, Chaya. Good luck at the dentist. Don't let them pull all your teeth out. So people might have seen this. This is so stupid. Maybe I shouldn't even talk about this, but I'm going to. Just because Vish is such a ridiculous human being. The Voosh, the Vaish, the Vaush, the Vash. Jabba the Voosh. Jabba the Vish. Some people may have seen that I had I don't know if you would call this a viral tweet or not. It's a lot of likes for me. This tweet dunking on Vaush, where Vaush condemns people who use the phrase "from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." Because let's be real, a lot of Palestinians would kill every Jew if they could. So using the same talking points that the Zionist apartheid regime uses, using the same talking points that the corporate media uses to defend Israel, saying that, well, the Palestinians are terrorists, the Arabs are terrorists. What else do you want Israel to do except to continually encroach on their land and continually push people out of their homes and continually massacre people with the $3.8 billion in weapons given to them by the U.S. and continue to enforce the apartheid? It's like, of course a lot of Palestinian people don't like the Jewish people, the Israeli people. Their land is being encroached on and seized. 75% of Palestinian people are in refugee status now, are considered refugees because they've been pushed off their land by the U.S. and British-backed apartheid regime. So yeah, a lot of them probably have really negative feelings towards Zionists and towards Israelis. What would you expect? Right? That's not the fault of the Palestinian people. That's the fault of the colonial occupiers. And if you need to see a visual, I'm sure most of the people in my audience already know. But this is the Palestinian land over the years. Right? The green is what they used to have, the green is what they had and what they have now. Here's what they used to have, and here's what they have now. Right? Almost all of their land has been seized by the apartheid regime. But you're going to say they're not allowed to use anti-apartheid slogans? They're not allowed to use any political slogans because it's too mean to the Israelis or some of the Palestinians might be extremists? Like, dude, what the hell are you talking about? Sitting in your gaming chair in the U.S., sitting in the middle of the country, sending Israel $3.8 billion a year, you're condemning the Palestinian resistance for using a slogan. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, because the country has been conquered from the river to the sea, dipshit. That's that slogan makes perfect sense. Unless you want the illegal Israeli apartheid regime to continue existing, which, subconsciously or consciously, we know he does, because he's either the dumbest MF on the planet or a Fed or both.
Also, yes, it's an anti-apartheid chant that's about killing white people. Like, much in the same way that from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free is both a call for anti-apartheid in Palestine, but also, let's be real, a lot of Palestinians legitimately would, if they could, kill all the Jews in the region. I mean, maybe some of them would in the whole world. Also...
So we can't support decolonization. We can't support these people trying to protect their own land and their own sovereignty against Western-backed Zionists enforcing an apartheid state and massacring children by the dozen in the West Bank. We can't support the anti-apartheid, anti-colonial slogan that they say because some of them are too mean. Some of them are bad guys. It's the same crap that you get from the Western media and from the Zionists when they claim that all Arab people are terrorists, and that's why we need to support the Zionist apartheid regime. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free is a fantastic slogan. Vaush is an idiot, and I'm sure the Palestinian people and the Palestinian resistance forces don't give a shit what some fat, greasy pedophile sitting in front of his computer has to say about their slogans. That is what you are, Vaush. You are a fat American pedophile condemning the anti-colonial and anti-apartheid struggle of the Arab Palestinian people in that region. And my other tweet about it, the last tweet, that Vaush is either the dumbest MF on the planet or a Fed or both. That was the one that went more viral, but this is the one I liked. I made myself a little poem here. How about from the Pacific to the Atlantic, every mile, America will be free of Vaush the pedophile. Haha, we should start using this slogan. I crack myself up, folks. I truly do. I'm the funniest guy around. Vaush has to be propped up from the CIA, says Garden State. Dude, he's got to be. I don't know that for sure. Allegedly, protecting myself legally. I don't have any evidence that he's a Fed, but the stuff that he says is just always falls in line with the U.S. State Department, always falls in line with NATO, always falls in line with the Western imperialists, and yet the guy continues to call himself a socialist, which is exactly the kind of socialist, exactly the kind of Marxist that's been propped up by the CIA, been propped up by U.S. ruling class NGOs and the U.S. State Department since the 40s, at least. So, and it doesn't, like we say with these, Gabriel Rockhill shows with his analysis of the Frankfurt School and Horkheimer and Adorno and Foucault and all these pseudo-Marxist thinkers who always sided with the U.S. empire back in the day, all these Western imperialist Marxists, the CIA doesn't have to necessarily support them directly, right? The CIA doesn't have to be saying, here's money, we're going to write your scripts. We're going to pay you to just read off these scripts that we give you on your show, right? It doesn't have to be that direct. Right, all they have to do is say bot Vaush's videos, right, or have some CIA agent sending Vaush super chats, right? Create the conditions to where Vaush can get rich and famous by spreading imperialist propaganda, and then he's such a stupid, selfish grifter. He's just going to keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it, right? He's bragged about how much money he makes doing this. He doesn't care about getting to the truth. He doesn't care about being an anti-imperialist. He cares about getting rich and being famous. So if the CIA creates the conditions to where he can get rich and famous by spreading imperialist talking points, he's going to do it. This is like we were talking about this in the last stream with the CIA funding modern art and with the CIA funding a lot of academics, anti-communist academics. They weren't, in a lot of cases, funding them directly. They weren't giving Jackson Pollock money and telling him what to paint. They were funding art exhibitions or art museums that would take Jackson Pollock type paintings, this abstract expressionist painting that they wanted to use to combat the artwork coming out of the Soviet Union, the socialist realism, right? So they didn't fund Jackson Pollock directly, but they set the stage. They created the conditions for someone like Jackson Pollock to exist and do what the CIA wanted him to do. They created art exhibitions and art museums that would accept that kind of work, which encouraged more artists like Jackson Pollock to come about and start doing that kind of work that the CIA liked. Similar with the academics, and Gabriel Rockhill talks about this in his analysis of the Frankfurt School and all these pseudo-Marxist thinkers, like I said earlier. A lot of the times they just funded academic journals, right? So they created these journals where you could only get published if you were writing Marxist work that condemns existing socialism. Right? You could be a Marxist and publish in these journals and become an intellectual rock star, become rich and famous, as long as you said the Soviet Union's evil and socialism, every time it's existed, has been even worse than capitalism, and we should never try to do revolution because of how bad it went in the Soviet Union, how bad Cuba is, and how bad China is. But I'm a Marxist, though, right? They didn't have to fund Horkheimer and Adorno and Foucault and all these guys directly. They funded these academic journals that would accept that kind of work, and then those journals and that encouraged those thinkers then to start writing stuff like that, start writing stuff that was useful to the CIA, who would then use other apparatuses to blast that message over a loudspeaker through the academies and through the American media apparatus, or Western media apparatus, I should say, because a lot of that happened in West Europe too. But again, they're setting the stage for these CIA puppets to come out and do their thing. They're making conditions where you can get famous by pushing CIA rhetoric or pushing U.S. State Department capitalist imperialist rhetoric. And then it gives them plausible deniability, right? They can be like, no, we weren't funding them directly. Sure, we were funding the journals that they published in. Sure, we were funding the things that made them famous. But we're not funding them directly. So you can't place the blame on us, or you can't say we were controlling them. You know, it could be a similar situation with Voosh. All they got to do is send some bots over to like his imperialist content, and that's going to encourage him to post more imperialist content, and it's going to encourage more people to start doing the same kind of content that he does, other people. But ethno-states are fine if they have the rainbow flag. True. I didn't realize that. As long as they're woke. Thank you so much, QWERTY. QWERTY from Canada. Appreciate you very much. Thank you for the second super chat of the day. I feel like yesterday my brain was just like firing. I was on it. I was quick-witted. Everything I wanted to say was just coming to mind right away. Today my brain feels a little bit slower, like it's lingering a little bit, but that's all right. I only plan to do an hour stream today, just a short little stream, so hopefully I'm not stuttering over my words too much for you guys. Hopefully you don't think I'm slow and stop listening to me and say, Eddie's so dumb. Remember that stream he did when he was kind of tired before wrestling practice and he wasn't speaking a million miles an hour because he had brain fog? What an idiot. I'm never listening to that guy again. Please don't do that. It would destroy my self-esteem. Just kidding. I know y'all would never say that. You've already sent 6 super chats, so clearly I'm doing okay. Hey, Eddie. How dare you be tired? How dare Eddie be tired? Yes, how dare I not get 9 hours of sleep and pound an energy drink before the stream and, I don't know, take Adderall before the stream to wake myself up or something. How dare Eddie be human? I know. I've always wanted to just be a robot. That would make these streams way easier. So I wouldn't have to sleep. I could just plug myself into the wall. But unfortunately, that's not how life works. Unfortunately, we're all humans. We're all flawed. But don't have a purity fetish, right? Accept me for my flaws. Don't say, Eddie got tired that one day, therefore he's impure and I condemn him. Just like I condemn the Cuba and the Soviet Union because bad things have happened there. Right? That's purity fetishism, which we must avoid. You like Vouch and don't have a life outside of streaming. Maybe you'll have more energy. True. I shouldn't have lifted and ran this morning. And I shouldn't go to practice tonight. I should just sit in my gaming chair and say, those Palestinians are pretty mean, aren't they? I don't really like their slogan. Those South African socialists are really mean. I don't like them. Why are these South African socialists actually organizing people, actually filling stadiums with people, and having them chant against apartheid and against colonialism and imperialism and for socialism? Why don't they just sit in their gaming chairs and stream? I don't understand it. I don't know what kind of Vouch impression that was, but yeah, that's what he's saying. Vaish probably has pressure sores from sitting too much. Yes. Sloth. He is the human embodiment of the seventh deadly sin of sloth, laziness. Did we play James Ray the other day? We did. We did. For Eddie Liger Smith, Robot Body Fun. Thank you. Thank you. Uh-oh. Christopher Romero, are you an agent of Klaus Schwab? Are you an agent of the World Economic Forum? You want me to start becoming a robo-human so I can work harder for you, so you can exploit my labor easier? Are you a transhumanist? You want to turn me into a robot? Just kidding. Thank you so much, Christopher Romero. YouTube member. That's what that little circle there means. Longtime viewer. If you become a YouTube member, you'll, for one, get that little circle next to your name. But for two, if you're a $10 member or a $10 Patreon supporter, you get access to Carlos's new book, which isn't that new anymore, but Carlos's fantastic book, The Purity Fetish and the Crisis of Western Marxism. One of the most important books written by a Western Marxist ever, in my opinion. So yeah, make sure that if you're a YouTube member, you're taking advantage of that. It's in our community page. You can download it as a PDF or whatever. So thank you. Midwestern Marx OnlyFans when? Never. Never. I think we should abolish OnlyFans. I want you to become Robot Nixon from Futurama. Do you guys know what I mean with the Klaus Schwab joke? Klaus Schwab is the guy from the World Economic Forum who said he wants robot implants in people, like brain implants and body implants, so they can do more work. And then at a World Economic Forum event, either him or one of his cronies or buddies was asked, what if people don't want these robot implants? What if people don't want to stop being human and start being robots? And they're like, well, then they won't be valuable to the capitalists, right? The only workers who will be valuable are the ones who have robotic implants. So then all the other workers will either be forced to get them or become obsolete because they'll be outcompeted in the labor market by the robot people. Oh my gosh. These people's brains, the way these people think, yeah, it shows that the capitalist system, the capitalist labor market is just how they see the world, Like we could never have a system where the means of production are collectively owned. The workers will always be in a competition with each other to try and serve the capitalists best. And the workers who don't get robot implants will become obsolete. The World Economic Forum people, their brains are just a reflection of capitalism. What's in their head is just a reflection of the material, the real world, which is true for all of us. But they're just really open about their desires and their views and the way they look at the world as super mega wealthy capitalists who are part of the World Economic Forum. All right, y'all, son of a Nazi collaborator. True, just like George Bush. OnlyFans was just theory. That's funny. Where do you get? I'm going to end this stream soon because we passed the hour mark. I appreciate you all for being here for our little mini stream today. Thank you so much. Solidarity. I'll be back either tomorrow or the next day. I'll maybe do a gaming stream later too. We'll see. Where do you get news updates on geopolitics? I only hear stuff like Niger and Ecuador when I see you cover it. I get stuff from Twitter for sure, but Consortium News is really great. It's a good outlet. People's Dispatch is a good outlet. And then I just follow a ton of really good journalists on Twitter. Ali Vargas, Camila Escalante is really great. Ali Vargas is really great. Here, let me just type these all in the chat for you. Consortium News was founded by the late, great Robert Perry. Fantastic outlet. People's Dispatch. Ali Vargas and Camila are great. Great Latin American journalists who will keep you up to date on Ecuador and everything else. Oh wow, Chen Weihua. Yeah, him too. Yeah, and then follow Midwestern Marx on Twitter too, because I'm always retweeting, and Carlos is always retweeting people who we get our information from. So thank you so much, Lucas, for the $10 super chat, our 8th super chat of the day. This is a super sticker, maybe, but crazy. They're flowing in. Thank you so much. Apparently, Lucas didn't want to ask a question, but appreciate you. Everything we do at the Institute would be impossible without you and people like you. Covert Action magazine as well. Yeah, the International magazine is good too. And Mint Press News. This has taken me a while to collect all these sources. Ramiro Sebastian Funes is a good one. Gray Zone. Wyatt Reed. Dan Kovalik is an amazing one for Russia. So I just put all them in the chat. Make sure to give all those people a follow. They're fantastic. I'm supposed to meet with the International magazine soon so we can work on collaborating on something. Been tired lately. Daziga, another super chat, getting €2 before we head out. Y'all are making it impossible for me to end the stream. Sending all these super chats. Appreciate the crap out of you. Thank you so much for dedicating some of your hard-earned dollars to what we do here at the Institute. Appreciate you very much. I love sources. I do too. Hopefully those will help. Thanks, man. Much appreciated. You got it. You bet. Also, you can join our Discord server if you have questions or want to ask our community stuff. So if you become a $1 Patreon supporter, you can join our Discord server for life if you're interested in that. So patreon.com/MidwesternMarx. There's more sources. I'll think of them, but my brain's a little foggy today. So, well, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you to the moderators like Ware Pilgrim. I don't think Cobra Commander and Jacob were here today, but thank you, Ware Pilgrim, for moderating. Thank you so much to the 9 people who sent super chats: Christopher Romero, Lucas, Daziga, QWERTY, Sebastian, QWERTY again, Duck Hash Browns, Cade Grenade, and Chad. Thank you all for the motivation. Thank you for the financing. I appreciate you all so much. Yeah, onward to socialism. Keep educating, keep learning, keep organizing your workplaces and your communities. Don't become nihilistic. Don't get beat down and depressed by the world that we're in. Find things that you enjoyed and that you enjoy doing in your day-to-day life so that you can find joy every day and not get nihilistic. And remember that we are going to change this system. It is going to happen because we can do anything together, and we're going to make it happen. So solidarity, everybody. Thank you so much. We'll play out with the intro here. Peace.
Injustice and economic injustice cannot be solved without a radical redistribution of political and economic power.